and we'll do the roll here in a minute. Again, welcome to those of you who are joining us via live stream, and good to see all the board members' faces again. I'm Jason Dean, Chairman of the Mississippi Board of Education, present in Madison, Mississippi. This meeting of the Board of Education is being held today, Thursday, May 21st, 2020 at 10 a.m. via teleconference and video means pursuant to Mississippi Code annotated section 2541.5. A notice of this meeting was posted in accordance with state law and included the date, time, place, and purpose of the meeting, identified the location of the meeting available to the public. An audio recording is being made of this meeting, and minutes of this meeting will be recorded. This meeting is also being live streamed, and I'll just say, if you don't mind, if you're not talking, please mute, and that will keep some of the background echo to a minimum. Dr. Carrie Wright is present in Madison, Mississippi to participate in this teleconference meeting as well. As I call your names, we're going to check for quorum. Please state the location of your presence for this meeting, and really you just need to do city and state. Miss Rosemary Altman.
I'm here in Clinton, Mississippi.
Mr. Buddy Bailey.
I'm here in Brandon, Mississippi.
Miss Nancy Collins. Dr. Karen Elam. Dr. John Kelly.
I'm in Gulfport, Mississippi.
Mrs. Brittany Rye.
I'm present in Starkville, Mississippi.
Mr. Sean Suggs.
Present, Blue Springs, Mississippi.
Mr. Omar Jamil.
Present, Hernando, Mississippi.
I'll go back. Miss Nancy Collins. Dr. Karen.
Yeah, she was on earlier. Tamala is, she's having some connectivity issues, so Tamala is working with her, but she is coming. She was here.
Okay. And then Dr. Karen Elam. We expected her to join us as well. But we do have quorum, so a quorum of the board is present at the location stated for the purpose of conducting the meeting through teleconference means. The May 21st, 2020 Board of Meeting is now called to order at 10:03 a.m. Since this is a teleconference meeting, please identify yourself when asking questions, making comments, or making motions, and also unmute when you talk, because that gets awkward. I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and I've asked Mr. Bailey to lead us in the invocation. And I just happen to have a nice nifty flag right there. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Mr. Bailey.
Pray with me if you would. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the day. You tell us to give thanks in all things, and we come to you in thanksgiving. Lord, we just know that we're in troubled times, and but Lord, we know you're still in control. Help us to ever be cognizant of that. Lord, we come to you and know that there's lessons to be learned from the times that we're in. We ask you to give us the hearts to learn those lessons along the way. Lord, we pray for our leadership. Lord, we pray for our national leadership. We pray for our state leadership. Lord, we pray for the leadership of Mississippi Department of Education and State Board of Education. May you give us wisdom and discernment to make decisions that are the best interest of all our people. Lord, again, we come to you. We bless you. We thank you. We thank you for being in control. Bless this day and thank you for it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Okay, I'll now ask for approval of minutes from the April 16th board meeting. Need a motion and a second.
This is Rosemary. I move for approval.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hear none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Next, we'll need to go to approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? If so, I'll entertain a motion to do so now. Hearing none. Are there any items on the consent agenda that members would like to pull out for discussion? If so, I'll entertain a motion to do so now. Okay, no changes to the agenda as presented, so we need a motion to approve the unamended agenda.
Buddy
I
made
move that I'll second. This is Sean.
Mr. Bailey, I believe, moved to for adoption, and Mr. Suggs for second. Any further discussion? Hear none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So now we will move to the report of our state superintendent, Dr. Carrie Wright.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Dean. This has been, and welcome board. Good to see your faces. This has been an incredibly busy month. Let me just put it to you that way. So let me give you kind of an update on my activities. I've been trying to keep the public apprised of what is going on and the status of what's occurring with education. I've been on radio interviews, conducted, Washington Post interviewed me as well. I have met with the Superintendent's Advisory Council. We have another meeting scheduled this coming week. I've met with my Teacher Advisory Council. I held 3 different meetings for them because the numbers were so large. I met with a Student Advisory Council, and each time to get a feel of what it's like, what are they going through, what do they need. One of the questions I kept asking the teachers was, what do you wish that you'd known before this all happened? What skills do you wish that you'd had? So it's really informing the work of the department as we move forward, planning professional development. We've also met with our technical advisory committee. As you know, since we did not do the statewide assessments, we're not the only one, nobody in the nation did. Everybody is now turning back to their accountability task force and their technical advisory committees on how you measure growth and things of that nature. So that's going to be a continuing issue that we talk about and work on with them. I have been literally on weekly calls with all the state chiefs from CCSSO and calls every other week with just the chiefs from the Southern Regional Education Board. So those have been incredibly informative, and it's also given us the opportunity to share what each of us are doing with each other so that we're not just replicating the same issues. I've also been in regular communication with our elected officials, the governor's office, the speaker, the lieutenant governor, both of our ed chairs. That has been an ongoing conversation with us so that they're well aware of what we're doing, as well as Dr. Dobbs. I've got to say, Dr. Dobbs.
Okay, all right. Let me know if y'all need further assistance. I'm just
Thank you.
He has been fantastic about being available to me and advising as we advise our districts on issues related to health. I also spoke at the joint committee meeting of the House this past week. It was the joint committee between, I think it was broadband and education. And I want to talk to you a little bit about this plan that we have put together, because I also testified at the Senate that very same day about this plan. And in between, I also attended the National Assessment Governing Board for about a day and a half. So it's been, because they're trying to decide what to do about NAEP in the spring. And that is not a simple issue. As you know, that's the only national exam that's given. But I want to talk to you a little bit about the plan that we have put together. And who can throw that on the screen? John, can you put that slide on the screen? Perfect, thank you. So next slide. So as you know, this is something, in order to create this world-class educational system that we want to have, and in order for children to be successful, this whole issue around COVID-19 and everybody being at home and learning digitally has really shown the light, quite honestly, on what we've all known, which is that there are some children that have connectivity and there are others that do not. And so this has really been, it's not just Mississippi, it's every state in the nation that's facing this. And as I testified at the Senate, I really think that we have a moral imperative to address this. Next slide. This impacts just about every goal that we're looking at, because if children aren't learning, then they're not able to graduate, and that goes for our little ones. And our teachers really need, and our leaders need the help that we need to give them. And needless to say, we are also continuing to be concerned about our lowest performing schools, and data will certainly drive that charge. Next slide. So here's the plan that we've put together, and I can tell you that we have vetted the plan with the Alliance, the Mississippi Alliance for Nonprofits and Philanthropy, and I was on a call with about 35. These are the biggest funders across the state, and we wanted somebody to really take a look at this and see what would this look like and how much would it cost. This is also the information that I gave. To be honest with you, I gave the Senate when I testified. So there's 5 components. Actually, there's really 6 components. I think the other one's I'll mention that as well. We want to talk about devices and services because obviously not all children have laptops at home. The issue about laptops at home is that you can have a Wi-Fi enabled laptop or device, but if you don't have connectivity, which is connection to the internet, your Wi-Fi enabled laptop or hotspot or device is absolutely worthless. So we're thinking about, we've designed this plan around making sure that everybody's got devices, everybody's got connectivity, and then most importantly then, what do we load onto that, which is high quality instructional materials. And you need a learning management system, which is what they're talking about an online platform that you see here. You need a learning management system in order to load that high quality instructional materials. Needless to say, on number 4 is professional development, not only for just teachers and staff, but for parents. This has come through in my teacher advisory. This has come through in my student advisory, that parents are also struggling with this. So we need to start developing online webinars and things of that nature for parents, as well as delivering professional development virtually for our teachers. And then the last thing is obviously around security and the management, accessibility, et cetera. We need to make sure that these devices are safe. But the component that's not on here that we have added to this is we want to be able, and we can do this with what you see on the screen, we need to increase the number of telehealth and teletherapy locations around our state. The one thing that's come through is that a lot of teachers and parents and students are struggling with social and emotional issues. And so we need to be able to partner with our health partners to open up more telehealth so that they can do that virtually and not have to feel like they've got to go out in order to receive the help that they need. And likewise with teletherapy. Next slide. So people are asking, well, how much does this cost? So this is our initial guesstimate. And we have worked with a national consultant on this. It was really the Alliance that was able to hook us up with Paige Johnson, who is just amazing. And so she and John Craman and his team, and I've really got to give a lot of hats off to John and his leadership with this, because he has really been the one that is leading this effort. And Paige said, you're so lucky to have somebody with such knowledge, and we know that, but it's so nice to also hear that from an outside person who really had a lot of praise for John as well. So this is our guesstimate right now. This is what we're working on. And as you can see, it totals about $249,000, about $250,000. So that's in essence what we're talking about around this plan. There has been a lot of energy generated about this plan. I can tell you that. The Alliance wrote a letter, had 25 or so signatures on it, totally in support of what we're doing. Sent that to the governor, the lieutenant governor, our ed chairs, and also the appropriations chairs. And Dr. Dean has been heavily involved in this all along the way, so that I wanted to make sure that everybody was looped in. And so we're hoping that this money can come from the money that the state has been given in their emergency money. As you know, the governor received $1.25 billion, and we're hoping that this money can come from that portion of the money. You also know that the state is getting ready to receive its CARES money, that $169.9 million. 10% of that, the department will retain, 0.5% for admin, and then 9.5% we're hoping to use to help our districts that are struggling the most. The rest of that money will go straight to the districts by formula, by Title I formula, and we are encouraging them also to make sure that they're thinking about technology first. This reopening is going to be a difficult one, and there are a lot of fears where this is concerned, and rightfully so. And so that's one of the reasons I've got a subcommittee of my superintendents. Dr. Coleman is leading that effort to really start devising a checklist, if you will, for the reopening of school, and what would that look like? What would scheduling look like? How many kids in the building? Because we're still going to be having to practice social distancing. In conversations with Dr. Dobbs, he has more than once reiterated that the social distancing and the wearing of masks and trying to not allow as many children as possible in one room at the same time is going to continue. And we also are quite confident that this resurgence of COVID may again come back in the fall, and we'll be back here again. So the monies that you're thinking about and you're seeing on this page have to be encumbered by December 31st. So the federal government has not given the states very much time where this is concerned. So I wanted you to have that. I'll pause now. I've got a video I want you to see, but I'll pause now to see if you've got any questions about this before I move on.
Can you just clarify the total amount one more time for us?
It's almost $250 million.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, if there are no questions, I want to,
Dr. Wright, I do have one quick one.
Sure.
Just want to confirm the 300,000 student device. Did that also include the teachers that would need some additional device support, or no?
We think so, Mr. Suggs. We're getting ready. That's one of the reasons I've scheduled another meeting with the entire state of superintendents next week, because we're going to be sending them a document asking them to complete it to give us an idea of how many devices they have, how old those devices are, how many devices their teachers have, et cetera. But they've really got to take this seriously, because we're being asked for some solid numbers. We're also thinking about getting Mississippi State involved to help us conduct this survey. And also Paige Johnson, the consultant, has also turned us on to another larger national database for us to be able to identify which houses are and are not connected to the internet. And so we're trying to hit this from as many different ways as we possibly can. But that number may have to be revised based on the information that we get back. Good question.
Thank you.
Dr. Wright, this is John Kelly. You mentioned the learning systems and platforms. Is that developed by outside consultants, or are we doing that in-house?
So those are off-the-shelf packages. You may have heard like Google Classroom, for example. That is a platform that a lot of teachers are using. You've heard of Canvas. That's another one that all the community colleges use, and I believe our secondary schools may use that as well, particularly our CTE people, and particularly those that are involved, I think, with dual credit. So there are already learning management systems that are out there, but this has also exposed the fact that not every district has a learning management system. And so that is going to be a critical thing for everybody to have that in order for us to load the high quality instructional materials onto that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, two things. I want to, just a word of recognition first before we show the video. I cannot say enough about this leadership team that I have and how hard they have been working. I mean, I was saying to somebody, it's 24/7 now. It's not 5 days a week. And there's not been a time that I have said, I need you to jump on a call, whether it's the weekend or evening or during the day, that this team has not stepped up and each taken his or her own role and run with it. And that being said, the staff at this department has really stepped up. They are cranking out materials that are just phenomenal. I told Nathan, for the academic side of the house, I said, you need, when time comes, either in June or July, to share some of this with the board. You need to see the fine products that this department is pushing out. So we've been hard at work and enjoying every minute of it. I honestly need to say that because this is all about children, and this is all about making sure that our children get the best that they can possibly get. And that's why I feel so strongly about this, this plan. This is an equity issue. this is not right. This is simply not right that we just ignore it, and that it's not children's fault that they don't have connectivity, right? And so we've got to, as a state, and the governor, I think, is very supportive of this. I think the lieutenant governor, the speaker, I think our ed chairs are. I think everybody is coalescing, and Dr. Dean can certainly say more about that, but I think everybody's coalescing around this, and I think this is a powerful moment. We're never going to have an opportunity like this again with this kind of influx of money, ever. And so we need to really think about the future, because this is an economic development issue. You know, this is a workforce issue. This is everybody's issue. This isn't just a K-12 issue, because our colleges are now all online. Well, guess what? There's some areas of our state that online isn't working for our college students either right now. So I really want us to think about this, and I know I've got your support with this, but I'm really proud of the work that's been put together, and think this has true potential for us as a state. Now I wanted to show you something that we were participating in. It's a short video. We had an opportunity to honor Mississippi's graduating class of 2020, and CCSSO asked each state to put together a video as part of that national Graduate Together telecast that just was on this past Saturday night. If you didn't get a chance to see it, it was really kind of neat. And it has a website, and every state has a page on it that's devoted to its graduates. And the address, and we can get this to you, is graduatetogether2020.com. That's graduatetogether2020.com. And if you go through, you'll see Mississippi's page. You'll see the video, and you'll also see a column that was written by our very own Shelby Dean, who is our outgoing state board rep. We had about 24 hours to put this together. So that just shows you the turnaround time. And also we invited the Student Advisory Council to help make it very personal. So I think you'll really enjoy it. I think it turned out well. My comms team tells me that it's the best in the nation. So now they're not prejudiced or anything. But so anyway, if you can show the video now. Thanks.
Hello, graduates. This is Carrie Wright, State Superintendent of Mississippi, and I am honored to be here today to congratulate Mississippi's graduating class of 2020. I want you to know how incredibly proud I am of each and every one of you. I know you have worked hard to get to where you are today and prepare for this next step in your life. Since kindergarten, each teacher you have had has taught you and helped prepare you for this moment, for you to be able to pursue your dreams, whatever they may be. Today is the day that you begin your life as an adult. Make every day matter. Stay curious. Don't be afraid to try hard and possibly even to fail, because working through challenges makes you stronger and better equipped when bigger challenges come your way. I know these final months of your school year have tested you beyond what you thought, but you have proven that you are up to the task. You have improvised in ways that you could not have even imagined. This graduating class has needed to step forward in ways that have been challenging. You have developed and or refined new skills that are going to better enable you as an adult. Over the past several years, Mississippi has made national prominence because of the education gains that we are making. Mississippi ranks #1. You were a very important part of that. I am so optimistic about our future because you will be leading our communities, our state, and our country. I'm excited to see what's going to be happening to you in the upcoming years. I know you're going to make Mississippi so proud. Congratulations.
That's great.
And that concludes my report.
That is outstanding. Very good.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. And, I'll just kind of piggyback on what Dr. Wright was saying in terms of the praise that's well-deserved from our executive leadership team. I can tell you since, I would say, about March the 10th, it has been nonstop, 24/7, nights, weekends, holidays. It doesn't matter. The team has been at it, trying to provide an adequate response to a lot of, unknown unknowns. And I would, particularly like to single out Dr. Wright and her, just determination and doggedness to chase down every single one of these issues. And there are a lot of them, and it's ongoing. And it's not like, other disaster responses where there's an end in sight and we know what it looks like and we just got to, rebuild this building and rewire these wires and, lay the plumbing here. It's far more complicated. And I've had the opportunity to work with her a lot over the last several weeks, and I can't be more proud of the leadership that we have. And I would just, give her my, unqualified 2 thumbs up for a fantastic job. I've been busy myself. We've, gotten a lot of attention for our response, and have been asked by NASB to participate in a few Zoom calls that were provided for other state board members across the country, just to talk about the issues that we're facing and how we're approaching the challenges as we see them. That was really a great opportunity to shine the spotlight a little bit on some of the things we're very proud of. Also participate in the Aspen Institute conference, all Zoom, just to talk about some of the cutting edge concerns they have around topics like social and emotional learning impact through all this. So it's really great to be able to nationally network with other educators and hear sort of what the best ideas are, and be able to have a platform to talk about some of the work that we're doing. The last update I would have is, well, actually I have 2. Next to last is just a reminder. I was appointed by Governor Reeves to be on Restart Mississippi. It's his version of the Economic Recovery Commission. We've been meeting every week. We've now established a separate committee. My topic is education impact. So the governor has asked that we establish subcommittees essentially to continue to get ideas to him around near-term, mid-term, and long-term recommendations as we try to get back on track, and whatever that looks like. So that's been fantastic. I've not only obviously close with our K-12 friends and in the community which we represent, but early childhood as well, and community colleges and universities. So it really is a unique opportunity to see how the whole state comes together and how other folks who are on this committee are sharing their ideas from Corinth to Gulfport. So that's been really great. My last comment, it's with a pretty heavy heart that I'm going to turn this over to Buddy Bailey and Brittany Rye here in a second. I won't take too much of their thunder, but I think you'll hear from them a little bit more. But this I think is Mr. Bailey's last meeting, although he's not officially leaving us until next month. This is the last formal meeting he'll have with us with the State Board of Education. And Mr. Bailey, I'll turn it over to you to make any comments along those lines.
Well, let me just say to you guys, it's been an honor of a lifetime to work with you as colleagues and the work that's been done at the State Board and in Mississippi. The gains that we made over the last several years are unprecedented, and I'm along with you. I'm so proud of that work. So to you, Dr. Dean, I appreciate your leadership. The State Board of Education, what a privilege, and very, very few people know the inner workings of this and how hard you work and all the hours that you put in. So thank you for that. To Dr. Dean, to Dr. Wright and your staff, just a special appreciation. And I echo what Dr. Dean just relayed about your hard work and your diligence and the courage that it takes just to do what you're doing. to your department, the most hardworking people I've ever seen, on call all the time. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you for the department's leadership and leading this state. And I look so forward to seeing the games again for the children of Mississippi. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Mr. Bailey. And I know you're just right down the road. So you might not be on the board, but you're not getting away from us. And we'll continue to lean on your wisdom and your guidance, as we move forward. And not only thank you for your service to the board, but thank you for, a lifetime of commitment to the boys and girls of this state as an educator. I mean, your impact on lives, cannot be measured. And you've been a great friend and a great a person to lean on and hear just really, a lot of times practical, common sense advice. But, as I said, you might be stepping off the board, but you ain't getting away.
Any way I can help in the future, Jake, I'll be available. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Miss Rye, are you on the call still?
I am. I just unmuted.
There you are. Well, I'll turn it over to you as well.
Okay. I am not returning to teaching next year. I have been at it for 20 years, but I am not going to be returning next year. And it's not a decision I made that was easy. My heart is still sad, and I hope I don't cry, because I sure didn't think my last year would end the way it has and being able to say goodbye. But my husband and I have always been very engaged in our local community and a crisis pregnancy center here. And I do have passion for children that I can impact here and children that I can impact that are not here yet. They're unborn. And that's the privilege that I'm going to get to go and do, is to work and be a voice for the unborn children. And I am super excited. And I know that this is God's plan. And I have prayed long and hard about it, because I do love teaching and I love those babies. And it's been hard to have to say goodbye to them this way and to say goodbye to my colleagues of 20 years. And to walk away from this opportunity that I can't thank each and every one of you for. I have grown so much. I have learned so much. And I have seen a side of education that I really didn't realize existed. The behind the scenes, the hard work, the dedication, the phone calls, the emails. I mean, you just have to pat yourself on the back. I mean, I know sometimes when you're behind the scenes, I remember that at Mississippi State, you think, what am I doing? I don't see what I'm doing. But as a teacher, and especially as a teacher who's got to serve on the board, I have seen what you're doing. And the gains that our children are making in the state of Mississippi are something that we should all just be so proud of. And moving forward, I just look forward to seeing the success that y'all continue to make. I'm cheering you on from the sidelines and with a heart that will miss being in that classroom. So, but thank you for the opportunity to have served with you for the past 2 years.
Well, thank you so much for those comments. And I know that next month is your formal official last meeting, and we're working up a few special things for both of you all during that time. But, I would just say, it's obvious your passion, not only for teaching, but for the state. And you and I have had a lot of phone calls, in the background, and I could tell you're always, deeply involved and interested and wanted to know, a lot of, the decisions and the why, and think through that. And you've always been a tremendous board member. That's all you can ask for in board members, is that they engage, that they think through these issues and try to be the representative of the people, that we, are sworn to do. So you've been a fantastic board member. And while we have you just one more time, we'll certainly miss you when you go. But I'll tell you, I'll tell Mr. Bailey, some of us will be around a little bit longer, and you can always count on us to get an ear, and any way that we can support you in your future endeavor. Please know that we are open to that, and we wish you all the best. But we'll see you next month too. So appreciate that. If there's not anything else, I will move on to our next item, which is the report of student representatives. Omar is on the call, and I didn't really prep him too much, but Omar, I just, you're representative of the students of this state. I think it's just always interesting from our point of view to maybe hear, kind of what, how your school year ended, what your plans are for the summer, and, what kind of communication are you hearing about, or even just, word on the street about what the 2020-2021 school year is going to look like.
Yeah, so we have been out of school for the past 9 weeks now. It was officially canceled about a month or so ago. But my school, our term just ended, so junior year is officially over for me. And these past 2 weeks have been AP tests for the entire nation. And I just finished my third one. I still have one more to go. But a lot of my friends and I are just relieved to be done with school, to just be done with the hassle of online quarantine school, just because you either were motivated to do it or you weren't. And either way, you just felt like you weren't getting the most out of your education that you wanted, especially at a junior year, with it being all this education that we're getting, all this like college education and everything. And it just kind of went away for us. So that was definitely a bummer for us, but we're glad to have summer now. A lot of people are glad. Of course, it's not like we're all free now to do whatever. We still have to abide by everything. But just knowing that there's one weight that's been lifted is a great thing. But for the past couple of weeks, I've been meeting with the federal board, the Youth Engaged for Change federal board. And we've been creating content, vetting content for youth across the nation to read about, to engage with, to just help them through this time, both socially, emotionally, practically, just to keep everyone going, keep everyone motivated to take it one day at a time or 1 week at a time. But that's pretty much what I've been keeping up with besides school. My friends and I have been keeping in contact, of course. I cannot live without them. They're my best friends, and we keep each other's back all the time. But I will be kind of busy this summer with Stanford still going on online, of course. But between that and just keeping up with friends and keeping up with family and keeping up with the State Board of Education, I think it's going to be just as busy a summer as ever, whether or not it is in person. So I'm glad to have a busy schedule. Some of the people aren't as lucky, so they'll be in the house all day, every day with quarantine and everything, and that's really a bummer. But I think everyone's kind of settling into quarantine and kind of making the most of it that they can. So even though that still sucks, it's what it is, and everyone's kind of they're at least profiting from it in some way for themselves. They're making what they can out of it, which is all that you can ask. So that's pretty much what's been going on my end. Yeah, appreciate that, and best of luck with the results of the MP test. How long before you hear about that? It'll be within the next month that we hear about it. Hopefully a little bit sooner than that since it's all online, but great. We never know. Well, good luck. I know that's a big deal, and we're proud of you, and we look forward to seeing how the summer goes, and appreciate that update. Next, we'll move on to our
Dr. Dean. Yes, Dr. Dean, may I break in here just a minute?
Please do.
Just to let the board know, Shelby Dean was named to the Hall of Fame at Clinton High. That's the highest honor a student can get. There are 4 students chosen each year. And so Shelby was one of the 4. So I think we should be very proud of that. The other thing is to kind of go back to what the video Dr. Wright did. I think we need to acknowledge communities across the state and school districts across the state for the things that they've done to try to make graduation be somewhat normal for our seniors, and communities that they've done some of the most creative things to try to make seniors feel special and included, and try to make their year as memorable as it could be, considering that their graduation and prom and all these things were taken away. So I just think we need to acknowledge that, thank them for that, and applaud them for the creativity. I mean, I've seen some things that have just been so neat that communities have come together and school districts have come together to make it work.
Could not agree more, and thank you for pointing that out. It's, you know, the class of 2020 will always be remembered as, you know, being put through extremely challenging circumstances. But, you know, as far as you can see, you know, as resilient as we hope that all of our seniors would be, they've stepped up to the challenge as what we hear, and they're just keeping rolling on and, you know, onward and upward for post-secondary ed or workforce or whatever the next challenge is for them. So thank you for pointing that out. And it's probably a little off script, but is there an update on, it might be on the subcommittee or some ad hoc committee on the selection process for our next student board representative?
Well, we haven't set a date yet. We were waiting until Sonia and I talked about it, and other committee members about waiting until we can meet them in person, but certainly we're going to do that. I would say June, so we can get them in here. Originally, I think they're supposed to be at the July board meeting, but that may not work. We'll have to just see what the schedule, but we want to interview them in person. And so we've just got to see when we can set that all up.
Thank you.
Dr. Dean.
Yes, Dr. Kelly.
I don't want to prolong this, but I would be remiss if I just didn't make a comment about our colleagues that are leaving the board. Buddy and Brittany have been just great colleagues to work with, both of them. They're very caring, compassionate about the work, but they've been great friends as well. You're leaving the board, but your impact on education in Mississippi will be with us for a long time. And for Omar, who's leaving us for the summer, I don't think any of us realized what the student representatives to our state board would really mean, because we had never done that before. We're just looking at what other states around the nation have done. But what Omar and Shelby has brought to this board has been simply amazing. Far more and better than any of us, I know for me, than I had imagined. So I'm just so proud to have had the opportunity to work with all three of you. Good luck to all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. Thank you for those remarks. If there's not others, then I will move on to our next report on the State Board of Education subcommittee meetings. I know for sure workforce development meeting met this morning. Mr. Suggs, you want to do the quick update on how that went?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Good morning again, everyone. Yeah, we had a really good meeting with Dr. Oakley and the team. We covered, we realized that the Perkins has been submitted, which is good. We're one of the few states to make that deadline, which was really good. We talked about some of the key stakeholders, some of the CTE, directory has been completed. Most of our communication and stakeholders with the community, we're still working on those things. Program quality, there's still a lot of activities going on from a course perspective, work keys, et cetera. The one thing that you're going to see today later in the presentation is a Hanover Research, Labor and Market Analysis report that Dr. Oakley will do. This is a very detailed analysis that we just completed, but I just want to make sure everyone knows this is one slice of the pie from a data point perspective on the state of Mississippi. This organization has forecast a lot of good data from a workforce perspective to the year 2029. So when you see this, it's really good information, but just wanted to let you all know it's just a slice of the pie. Okay, that's it for workforce.
Thank you, sir. Were there other committees that might have met and I wasn't aware of that were scheduled? I don't think that there were, but just interrupt if there were. I'm going to move on. We're now into the heart of our agenda, discussion and approval of board items. Action item number 1, approval of the State Board of Education to suspend strict compliance with Mississippi Code Section 371310 for the 1920 school year following Governor Tate Reeves' proclamation resulting from the impact of COVID-19 on districts during the spring of 2020 in accordance with the Mississippi Annotated Code Sections 3315, 3111, and 11B and 11C. Dr. Oakley.
Thank you. This is an item similar to what we brought forward to you in March and again in April, where we're requesting some flexibility on implementation of state law. This code section requires an component of instruction and assessment in cursive handwriting. However, it's not practical for districts to implement that given that they are not presently in school. And so we're requesting to give coverage to districts that we suspend this requirement.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, is there any, I need a motion and a second.
John Kelly, I so move.
Karen Elam, second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Action item 2, approval of the State Board of Ed to extend the funding period of 1819 McKinney-Vento Education for Homeless Children and Youth Program awards as a result of the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, March 27th, 2020. Dr. Oakley.
As you know, we've received some waivers from the U.S. Department of Ed. One of these is a waiver that allows us to extend the fiscal year 19 McKinney-Vento program funds to be used in the upcoming year. We are bringing forward a request that the board allow us to issue a no-cost grant extension to allow those districts to continue to expend those funds through January 1st of 2021.
Okay, pretty clear and straightforward. Any discussions or questions? Okay, hearing none, can I get a motion and a second?
This is Sean, so move.
Ms. Rye, second.
Okay, there's a motion second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 3, action item, approval of the State Board of Ed to delegate to the State Superintendent of Education or her designee the authority to review and approve plans for summer learning and enrichment measures as required by Governor Tate Reeves Executive Order 1476. Dr. Oakley.
Thank you, Dr. Dean. As you know, Executive Order 1476 requires that on or before June 1st of this year, each school district is to submit to the state board for approval a plan for summer learning and enrichment measures to mitigate disruption from the spring 2020 school closure and to enhance summer learning in preparation for the upcoming school year. Rather than bring each of those plans to the board for your individual review and approval, we are recommending that the board delegate that authority for Dr. Wright or her designee to review those plans so that we can get that response back to the districts and they can continue with their work. We will bring an update to you as a board in June on that if it passes your vote today.
I'll just make a couple of comments here. I'll start by saying, first of all, this was really, really important to Governor Reeves. He wanted to ensure that every district they were doing something between now and the start of school, and really, back starting way when, to do something to ensure that the extended summer slump was being addressed. And the executive order laid that out, and this is just a matter of timing. June 1st is the deadline, but if we waited 3 more weeks or whatever to approve it, or to start changing it, then that sort of throws their timeline off. So in discussion with Dr. Wright, I thought it would make sense for her just to approve them and to work with the districts to get them right. But we want to make it clear that this is definitely in response to a concern that the governor has, and to ensure that students who want it at whatever level have some ability to continue accessing educational resources throughout the summer. Any questions?
Yeah, just a quick question for me. Have we already had districts submit already? What percentage have we already had? Do we know?
So we've actually, yes, sir. We have done this twice. We did an initial round in April that was a kind of an expedited process before the governor's executive order. And then once his order came out, we reissued with some more broad expectations and questions around summer learning and enrichment and communications. And we've received responses from all of our public school districts as of the last couple of days.
All right. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Karen Elam.
Okay.
Second, Nancy Collins.
Yeah, Thank you, Ms. Collins. I see you've joined us. Thank you very much. So there's a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? Hearing none. Motion carried. Next, we'll do our information, the overview of the Hanover research that Mr. Suggs referenced from our Workforce Development Committee. Dr. Oakley.
All right, I'm trying to get my screen shared. Can you see what's going with the presentation now? Great.
Yes.
So thank you very much. As a matter of background, we as an agency started this work in the fall of 2019, and we believe that this work aligns directly with the vision and mission that you have set forth as a state board, particularly as we look at goal number 1 and goal number 2, especially graduating students ready for college and career. You know, we've got a CTE workforce. Mr. Suggs spoke that already. And so we believe that this lines up nicely with that. In the fall of last year, we partnered with Hanover Research to conduct a labor market analysis for the state of Mississippi. Hanover last fall contacted leadership from a number of agencies here in the state and other organizations to garner collaborative support. We did not get responses from these agencies, but we see an opportunity going forward to share this information with them and to drive some conversations much more broadly than the education, K-12 education world in the future. As Mr. Suggs already alluded to, this report that's in your board backup is really one slice of the data pictures that we're looking at as we do planning for our career technical programs in the state. But you can see here on the screen a number of agencies that were contacted last fall across the state. The research was really conducted to help the agency determine both our current and really plan for future priorities for CTE. This was all in the midst of our Perkins planning process. We were in the midst of a transition and kind of a redesign of CTE with Dr. Brown newly on board as our CTE director for the state. But we're trying to look kind of towards the long term with our planning for career technical education. It was also laid out as a way to analyze our labor market data, and not just as a state, but also within our 4 distinct workforce development areas. And then to compare that labor market data to our current CTE course offerings to see where we have alignment or see where we might need to look at developing new courses or making adjustments to courses. Hanover Research, as a part of this process, looked at long-term employment projections from 2019 to 2029, and they used data from a number of sources, Jobs EQ, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, as well as MIT. And as a part of this, they were looking at livable wage rates for various family structures we'll look at in just a minute, and then correlated that information with the salaries of different occupations here in the state. And so the research questions that drove this were around high demand, high growth industries within those 4 local workforce areas, as well as high demand and high growth specific occupations in those areas. Which of those industries and occupations support a livable wage for some different family configurations, and which of our CTE courses here in the state align to high growth occupations. So we'll hit really the 30,000 foot level first, and then we'll hit some highlights from that report in the subsequent slides. So we know that the highest growth occupations in Mississippi are in healthcare, social services, hospitality, and construction. Those are the 4 that we project, or Hanover has projected to have the highest growth in the next 10 years. Hanover also recognized that the thresholds that needed to be used to establish what would be considered high growth industries or occupations varied for the state and for those workforce development areas. For instance, in the Delta, and we'll dig into that more in a few minutes, but the Delta is an area where the threshold used to determine what was considered high growth was lower than for the other regions in the state, given the projected downturn that we see for labor market in a number of industries in the Delta. As you can see in that bottom bullet, the Delta is expected to experience a downturn or decline in 91% of occupations with regard to demand for those jobs. There are 6 CTE courses currently in our frameworks that are aligned to only high growth industries, not mid growth or low growth industries. And those are listed here on your screen: athletic training, cooking and culinary arts, health informatics, hospitality administration, medical lab technology, and practical nursing. So that does not mean that we need to throw out all of our other CTE courses. There are a large number of CTE courses that align not only to a high growth industry, but also at the same time to mid and low growth industries where there will still be demand for jobs and certainly demand for those students that have been through those courses. Again, one slice of the puzzle that we're looking at here in the state. And so the balance of the slides are actually screenshots from some of the pages of this capstone report. The two statistics that you see here are for living wage configurations. For a one-person household to survive or to earn a livable wage, you're looking at almost $23,000 based on 2018 census data. For a three-person household with one working adult, as well as another adult and a child dependent, you're looking at a livable wage rate of $45,000. Hanover focuses in this report really on jobs, occupations that would provide for a livable wage, and they have color-coded those in green and blue and red. The green salaries correlate to occupations that pay for a three-person household. A blue salary displayed indicates that it would provide for a single-person household, and salaries displayed in red would correlate to pay that is less than the livable wage in a single person household. So as we look at I'm going to pause here for a second. Is my sound okay? Somebody just sent me a message.
It's a little crinkly. I don't know how to address that though. The video is fine, but it just sounds, some crackling in the background.
I will, give me just a second. I can dial in and see if that helps.
Okay, while he's going through that, are there any questions so far about what he's presented? I know he wants to get to the end before we weigh in, but any questions about the research questions or the rationale for why we're doing this? I think that's probably pretty important.
Welcome to AT&T's teleconference service. Please enter your access code. To join the conference as the host, press star. Otherwise, press pound. The conference has been locked by the host. Please contact the host for assistance.
All right. So I'm locked on the phone. So if Tamil or whoever at TSS can unlock, that'll help.
It's not horrible, Nathan. Just keep going. I mean, it's just it's not that bad.
All right. I'm in good internet connection. I'm at the office, so I'm not sure if Zoom's having a problem or what. But we'll keep moving, and certainly can take any questions or pause me if it gets too bad to understand. So as we look at the overall state summary, Hanover is laid out across the top, the 5 occupations in the state regarding projected growth that require no educational attainment, the top 5 that require a high school diploma, and the top 5 that require an associate's or post-secondary non-degree award. Keep in mind that this report is not focused on bachelor's degree or higher kinds of occupations. This is really focused on high school diploma and other associate's degree or non-degree threshold kinds of occupations. Again, here you can see those 6 courses at the bottom left that are aligned with only those high growth industries within the state. And then at the bottom right is the information on the occupation with the highest projected growth demand, and that is in our construction labor market. As I mentioned to you earlier, the growth thresholds that Hanover used for the state are listed here, both with high, mid, and low growth industries, as well as high, mid, and low growth occupations. You can see the percentage growth thresholds for each of those at the top, as well as the expectations, the criteria they use to determine which occupations were expected to see a high, mid, or low growth over the next 10 years. So when we look statewide at our industries that are projected to experience high growth, those fall in the human services, health science, and hospitality and tourism industries. And you can see, we'll look at a number of tables with similar data by region in the next few minutes. But you can see here the total employment within the state presently, the average annual wages for those. You can see the blue and the green I alluded to earlier. And then you can see the total demand for those jobs in 2029, as well as the projected growth and the projected annual percentage growth. It is worth noting, you see two of these that have an increase in total demand. You see another one that shows a decrease in the health sciences, but there's still a projected employment growth. That is a result of individuals that are currently in this sector that may be moving into other kinds of jobs due to retirement or other transition during that 10-year period. But we do expect to see an increase in the number or increase in demand for jobs in these three industries. And then here, as we look at the CTE course alignment for those high growth industries in the state, you can see within human services, within health science, and within hospitality and tourism courses that are aligned with each of those. When we dig down to the occupation level, there are 10 occupations. These are the top 10 occupations expected to see high growth in demand over the next 10 years. And you see these fall across different workforce sectors. You can see the key here on the left with the brown circles with the houses are all connected to construction related programs. You can see the pink circle with the plus in it are medical related. And so Hanover has used that key throughout the report to kind of draw your attention to groupings of occupations within different industries. When we look at the occupational alignment with our CTE courses, again, you see 10 different sectors here with occupations aligned to each of those and the courses that match up with those individual occupations. Again, this is statewide level data, and we'll dig in more in just a minute to some of the regional data. And we're going to start with the Twin Districts, the southeast part of the state. And again, we're pulling pieces from each of these 4 areas. There is more detailed information in that full report that's in the backup. There are currently 9 courses that are aligned with occupations of high growth and demand in the Twin Districts. And you see those listed here, as well as the occupation with the highest projected growth being home health aides. When we look at the industries with projected to experience high growth in the Twin Districts, architecture, construction, information tech, health science, and human services. And again, you can see several of those have very attractive salaries that would easily provide for a family of 3 with a single wage earner. When we look to the northeast part of the state, there are 8 courses in our high schools presently that are aligned with occupations of high projected growth. They're listed here. And the occupation in the northeast part of the state with the projected greatest demand is in the construction labor market. There are 12 industries in the Mississippi Partnership District with expected high growth in that region of the state. Again, you can see the total employment for those, the average annual wages, many of which are in green, and then the total demand and the increases to the right. You'll notice on these first few sections of the state, we see some areas with projected growth approaching 2% in those high growth areas. I just want to draw that to your attention as we contrast that with the Delta in just a minute. You see here in the Delta, there are 7 courses currently offered that align with our high growth occupations projected over the next 10 years. And child, family, social, and school workers are expected to be the highest demand occupation in the Delta region. It's worth noting that in the Delta, based on Hanover's analysis, all industries are projected to be in decline, with the exception of that healthcare and social assistance industry, which is projected to remain stagnant. And so they lowered that threshold to 0.2% to identify what do they expect to be a high growth industry for the Delta region. And that's where that human services occupation area or industry was identified. It's also worth noting that this one area does not provide for a livable wage for a family of 3. And so this is one of the pieces that has raised concern for us as an agency. I know with Dr. Wright and with Pete, as we've talked recently, we believe this is not something that the agency can tackle, but something that needs to drive conversation across workforce agencies here in the state, with the Development Authority, with the Department of Employment Security, with the Community College Board, and the workforce training that they do. It's worth the conversation to see what do the CTE courses need to look like to ensure that the folks coming through those programs have potential for employment down the road. So again, implications for us at the K-12 world, as well as post-secondary and workforce development in general. The southwest part of the state, there are currently 10 courses that are aligned with occupations of high projected growth listed, and then home health aides in the health services, allied health and general program are where the occupation is with the highest projected growth for the south central part of the state. 5 industries in that region are expected to see high growth over the next 10 years, and you can see the numbers that match up with each of those.
Today. I'm leaving at 12:30.
So where do we go from here as an agency? We are in a position now where we want to share these findings with other state agencies. This is some of the information that we have. We also know that our local districts have worked closely with their community college boards on their local plan updates. They work with their local industries as they've identified needs. We want to present this research findings to our Ms. Acti conference that will be held virtually this summer, in our fall directors meetings and in our fall collaboration meetings that we hold in conjunction with the Community College Board. We'll be working with our CTE advisory panel that we're getting underway to formulate actions going forward, and then work with local districts to align our CTE programming with the results of this report, as well as the needs that are identified through that, have been identified through that Perkins planning process. Again, as Mr. Suggs has said, I want to reiterate that this is one slice of the pie. This is one piece of the puzzle, and we will use this report in conjunction with our other available data to really shape the future for where we're going as a state with regard to CTE and with regard to our workforce development efforts. So I'll pause here and take questions or comments.
Thank you, Dr. Oakley. Questions from board members? Let me just, I'll make a couple of comments, and then if there are questions, we'll take them or we'll move on. I think this is an important step. I really like the research question around, what's our current inventory of CTE courses and what does the market look like? I like the fact that we've reached out to the different stakeholders, whether it's MDES or MDA or the local workforce investment boards or the community and junior colleges. This is probably apparent to everybody. I think that the, quote, quote, new normal is fundamentally different than what it was 3 months ago or 6 months ago when this research got started. So that's going to impact where this goes. I also think that there's, probably some more shaping that needs to be done in terms of the aspirational approach to where this goes next. There's a lot of things that, you got to get into communities and hear, from the economic developers and the chambers and the large businesses where they're going. For example, shipbuilding, on the Gulf Coast. I mean, obviously that's a massive growth sector, particularly when you think about, where Congress wants to go with the new Navy and how that'll impact that region, as an example, or advanced automotive manufacturing up in Mr. Suggs' neck of the woods. So anyway, I just, these are very important, right first steps, but the point was made, and I just, will affirm it one more time. This is the starting point, and we definitely look forward to working with you guys and to see where this goes and how it impacts what the courses that we're offering through career and technical education in the future. Any comments or questions on this work?
Well, it's excellent information. It's good information. It's a good starting point and a good roadmap for moving forward.
Okay. If there's not other comments, then I'll tee up Dr. Vanderford here for action item 5, approval of a temporary rule to begin APA process to revise Part 189 Mississippi School Safety Manual. Dr. Vanderford.
Good morning. This item is seeking the board to approve a temporary rule, which means it becomes effective immediately, of course, upon APA filing, to revise the school safety manual. The school safety manual is being revised to include the requirements in accordance with the School Safety Act of 2019, which was House Bill 1283 from the last legislative session. And it also revises and provides more training opportunities for SROs and the SSOs. And then we've also included referencing back to the last board meeting with the question that Mr. Stokes asked, a component of an epidemic or a pandemic response. And while we know that the school resource officer or basically just the school safety team would not be responsible for crafting this component of the plan, we believe that as a result of what we're experiencing now, that this would be an important part or component of the plan to include. And so the Office of Safe and Orderly Schools will be releasing additional guidance to districts in the future about what components of that plan would look like. For example, how they would continue instruction if the buildings are closed. And so those are the three primary areas that you'll see the revisions to the manual, and we're just asking your approval to begin the APA process to make those changes.
Okay, thank you for that. Any comments or questions?
I know there was just a CDC release on their recommendations of how schools should reopen, as an example. I know they just released that nationwide. Would any of that information be included, or is that completely separate?
No, sir. As Dr. Wright mentioned, she has a team or a subcommittee that's working on the restart. So as we're working through this process and gathering all the information and taking into consideration the requirements in our state, from our state health department and the CDC guidelines, then we'll draft the guidance. But we haven't completely outlined exactly what we want included in that until we complete the work in preparation for restart and the guidance that will be statewide.
Understand. Thank you.
Great question. Other thoughts or comments, questions? All right. So I'll need a motion then to approve the temporary rule to begin the APA process to revise Part 189, Mississippi School Safety Manual. Motion in a second.
John Kelly moves approval.
All right, we've got Dr. Kelly with the motion and Ms. Collins with the second. Yeah. All those, any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so that motion carries. And we'll move to action item 6, approval to begin the APA process to revise Mississippi Codes, Administration Code 7-4, Part 4, licensure guidelines, K-12 to modify licensure requirements for obtaining and maintaining AP supplemental add-on endorsements that is added to valid standard 5-year Mississippi teacher license. Dr. Vanderford.
Okay, so in January, the Department of Ed, the Offices of Educator Licensure, in conjunction with Academic Ed, presented a proposal to revise this the licensure requirements for the advanced placement endorsement. And at that time, the Licensure Commission tabled the item and asked that there be a subcommittee of the Licensure Commission formed to take the recommendations of the agency under advisement. And they did form the ad hoc committee. They met in February and came back to the Licensure Commission with their recommendation on March the 6th. And the Licensure Commission did approve the recommendation of the ad hoc committee. However, as you know, the board has the option to accept the recommendation of the Licensure Commission, to reject it, or to modify it. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Oakley, because we're asking that the board in this item modify the recommendations that were actually approved by the Licensure Commission. And Dr. Oakley is going to provide the rationale for that request.
Thank you, Paula. So we have looked at our information, our data on AP. As you know, we've seen over the last several years a large increase in the number of students that are participating in and that are earning a 3 or higher on the AP exam. We are one of a handful of states here in Mississippi that requires a separate endorsement for a teacher to be eligible to teach AP courses. We've heard from a number of our rural districts in the state that have difficulty finding AP certified teachers. And so this is really an equity issue from our perspective. In tab F of your consent agenda, there's a similar item or a related item coming forward where we are looking at pushing districts to offer those AP courses. If a student is eligible, the district needs to make that course available on the schedule and offer that course in their schedule for students to enroll. They need to enroll those students to give them that opportunity for the advanced course content. And so as we've looked back over the last 10 years, we've seen that Mississippi has continued to lag behind other states, even those that don't have a specific AP endorsement requirement. So this endorsement add-on that we have here has not really yielded us any benefit over the last 10 years. We've not seen any drastic increase in the percentage. We've seen increase in numbers and we've maintained percentage scoring 3 or higher, but we've not seen the results that we'd expected to see. And so in light of the equity issue, in light of the financial barrier to getting teachers licensed in that content, and in light of the fact that the AP does a curriculum review, a syllabus review for content for teachers that teach these AP courses, and in light of the fact that much of the training that and resources that we used to provide or have provided face-to-face are now virtually through the AP website. They're available virtually there. We're recommending that we eliminate that additional endorsement requirement. We do plan to continue to offer training and supports to these teachers. We're not pulling the plug on that at all, but we do see this as a barrier to access for students and an equity issue, particularly among our rural and low-income districts.
Okay. Comments and questions?
I did have some comments, and I know I've talked with Dr. Oakley and Dr. Dean about these, just some of the concerns as a teacher that I have. I do completely understand about trying to make it more accessible for rural districts to be able to recruit these teachers and be able to have the AP classes. However, teaching an AP class is very, very different than teaching a regular class. There are certain requirements that have to be met and have to be taught in order to be able to make that 3 or above on that national exam. There is a specific writing process that those teachers need to know about in order to teach it to those students. And I feel that we have an expectation for dual enrollment where you can receive college credit. Those teachers have to have a higher level of education themselves, and with these AP classes, and they receive college credits, I do believe that those teachers need to be held at a higher level to be able to teach those classes. I worry that we are talking about trying to get more teachers in, but maybe not at the quality that we need, and we could put ourselves in a position in a couple of years that we've got students not prepared to take that national test. And that's just a concern of mine that I have as a teacher.
Okay. Other comments, questions?
I agree with Ms. Rye. I think, we hold those people to a higher standard and we hold those students to a higher standard. So we've got to make sure that the people who are teaching them are well trained and well prepared for the students, because those AP exams are very rigorous. And for a student to pass that exam, they have to be very well prepared to do so. So I understand the rationale behind it, but I think we need to proceed cautiously.
I agree somewhat, but I think it's a right step in that it addresses some of the inequity issues. We MDE are going to hold the standards, I guess I'll say, for the actual curriculum taught in the AP course. And if a teacher in a rural area is willing to take on the responsibility of teaching that and willing to probably do a whole heck of a lot more subject matter preparation he or herself. I think we need to be able to offer that to our students that are currently do not have access to AP courses.
And I do agree with what you're saying, Dr. Elam. I guess as a teacher, I know that there have been times I've taken on a task thinking that I was prepared for it, and I wasn't. And I'll just be honest, I failed miserably at it. And I think that from talking with teachers that have been given the opportunity to teach AP classes, they have been very hesitant to say that because it is such a different type of teaching, and the support that they need is so much more. You don't come out of college prepared to teach an AP class. I think we have to think about the student. A student that goes into an AP class thinks that they're going to be coming out ready to hopefully make a 3 or higher and get some college credit for that. And what if there was a teacher there that did not prepare them for that because we did not hold them to that standard?
The only requirement for teaching AP, the summer training or the extended training that they go through?
They have to go through that initial training, and then they in the past they've had to continue with a recertification every 5 years to continue with that.
They've also though have to go through a syllabus, approval. So it's not like they can just take off and teach whatever they want. There is a syllabus that they must follow and be approved by AP.
That's one of the ways that the rigor of the course is ensured, is that syllabus review on the front end through the College Board review process. And again, we don't see dropping the training that we offer for AP teachers. We would still make that available. We still want to support them and ensure that they've got the support and the resources and the skills they need to teach the classes. We would simply be eliminating the licensure requirement for that.
And I think the model will drive that some. If you don't make a 3 or above, then of course it doesn't count in your acceleration piece. So the model will help drive that to some degree, to put the right people in the right places. If you're not going to do that, then you weren't going to do it anyhow. So, but the model does drive it, and the other thing is that regardless of degree, you do have to go through that summer training or extended training and follow the syllabus. Other than that, you could put any degree teacher in there that you wanted to. So I think districts are just going to have to continue to be wise about it, and I hope the model drives that some.
But I think that's what we're saying, though, is that they do not have to, it'll be optional if they take that training, correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. The training would not be a requirement. It would be available. They could continue to pursue it through the College Board or through training that we offer here in the state, focused on AP. They would simply have to have the endorsement in their content area for that related course.
I wonder if Omar, our AP student, has any thoughts on this topic?
So the question is on the training for AP teachers, correct? Like that's what we're discussing right now.
The endorsement.
The endorsement.
The fact that the endorsement is required. And we're only like one of a handful of states that does this. Most other states do not require this endorsement.
So what is the endorsement? The endorsement is like an added training. Is that what this is? Or is this just something completely different?
It is additional training that they go through to get a separate code on their license that allows them to teach these AP courses.
So just personally, I go to DeSoto County. I live in DeSoto County, and I go to DeSoto Central High School. So all of our AP teachers just amazing what they do. Obviously, that may not be the case for everywhere, but I think that if you're going to teach an AP class and you want to have all the additional benefits of teaching an AP class, training should be there, whether or not it's optional or required. But I definitely think for the schools that aren't as lucky as me to have teachers who know what they're doing every single day and have that kind of training, something like that would be very applicable and very worthwhile to have required. Because I know even if teachers do know what they're doing and do know how to teach the AP course, which is very rigorous, having that extra training is always going to be helpful. Like, you're not going to come out of it with having less than you came in it with, you know? So I definitely think that additional training should definitely be pushed forward. Maybe not required, but it should be an option for every teacher to have to know, so that people who aren't as well versed in AP classes, and my teachers are, do know that that's an option, and they aren't almost pushed for it like, hey, we don't think you're doing well enough of a job, so you got to do this. But just having that option there can almost encourage teachers to do better in such a difficult course. Because I know it's a lot to handle for my AP teachers. But yeah, definitely have that as a very encouraged option, that additional training.
Dr. Oakley, this is John
Thank you
Kelly.
Yep, Dr. Kelly, go ahead.
What kind of, how do I put it? What kind of monitoring system can we put in place to make sure that at the end of the day, the students are going to benefit from it? Every decision we make here on this board is done with students in mind, to make sure that the outcomes for students are better than they are now. I certainly think the option should be available to the teachers and to those districts, but I sure would want to make sure that students are benefiting from it, and that we are not setting up false expectations of outcomes for students. So what kind of systems are in place? I'll restate the question. What kind of system can we put in place to monitor this for its effectiveness?
So there's a couple of ideas that come to mind. First off, we have pushed out to districts the last couple of years, directly to parents, potential for AP letters. And so I think to reiterate with districts, as they try to expand their AP offerings, to look at the PSAT results from the students. We've got about 3,500 students each year that take the PSAT. It's the qualifying test for National Merit Scholarship. But we've been notifying parents directly of their child's potential in any number of AP courses. And so to go back and encourage districts to look closely at the enrollment of their students that meet that AP potential requirement, and look at enrollment trends there. I think we also look at unknown caller. I think we also look at the data over the next couple of years to see what happens with our AP 3 and higher results, particularly if we make this policy change, to see a trend in that. Knowing that we've remained stagnant for 10 years at about a 33 or 34% 3 or higher rate, at the same time more than doubling our participation rate, we feel like this is a worthwhile pursuit to open up that opportunity further.
So is there a, go ahead.
Well, so let me see if I want to be sure I have this straight. So currently, as the policy stands, they have to go through a special training in the summertime, and then they, every 5 years, and then they get this stamp on their whatever, on their license, that stamp, whatever. Okay, what, in a nutshell, what does this training entail? I mean, it's not driven by the subject matter like mathematics or physics, or I assume that it's, I don't know what it is. Yep. Then.
Some of it is instructional strategies with those students. It's deep critical thinking, it's problem solving and writing approaches. A lot of the AP exam is a written exam. And so there's a different, markedly different approach to the way that some of those courses are taught, which is why we want to continue to offer the training to those teachers. I think Mr. Bailey hit on a very key point earlier, that accountability is really going to drive practice within districts. And districts are going to be very deliberate if they've got potential for benefit to the students or to their accountability results, either one or both. They're going to be deliberate about which teachers they put in to teach those courses, and to ensure that the students get the rigor in those courses that they need. I think to some point,
Go ahead, Nathan.
to some point, that accountability policy, that accountability model is going to push districts to have teachers to participate in these trainings, many of which this has been an unfunded mandate for years. That initial training, that's a pricey venture to go to a week-long training to pay for travel and registration and meals and lodging, whether it's here in the state or elsewhere. And so that's viewed, again, by our rural districts, particularly that aren't in a metro area where the training may be available, as a significant barrier to access for their teachers to be able to teach and for their students to be able to access.
Okay, so just to remind everybody, this is the step to go to APA to get comments back. What's the timeline? Would this be a June or July? I know that we're trying to get it done quick. When do we get the results back from APA if we voted to move forward?
So given our timeline for the June meeting, this would have to be a July item.
Okay. I don't want to cut off additional comments or questions. Are there any? If not, then we'll need a motion to.
Dr. Dean.
Yes, sir.
Would you again frame for us exactly what it is we're going to vote on? Because there's a recommendation that came from a committee, and as I understand it, the department is asking for modifications in that recommendation that came from the committee. So kind of frame that for us so we'll know exactly what it is we're doing.
And I'll ask either Dr. Vanderford or Dr. Oakley to answer that specific question on what exactly the amendment that you're asking us to consider then to move forward to APA is precisely.
We are requesting that effective with the 2021 school year, teachers be able to teach advanced placement courses with the appropriate secondary education content area endorsement without separate AP training required, or without that separate endorsement required.
And that was the committee's recommendation, is to have separate out the AP endorsement.
That's the recommendation coming from the department.
Right, but I think to Dr. Kelly's question, that what was the original committee recommendation would be to separate out AP endorsement, and the department's recommendation is not to do that. Right, is that correct?
The committee wanted to require initial training, but not require that every 5 years it be renewed. They could just renew their AP endorsement with the regular endorsement renewal. Did I capture that correctly, Dr. Vanderford?
Yes.
You're on mute, Dr. Kelly.
So while Dr. Kelly's unmuting, I think the thing about this too, there's some really key pieces to keep in mind here. Number one, it's going out for APA. So you're going to have an opportunity to hear from people across the state, what they're thinking about this. And really the reason that we are asking you to consider this is because it is an equity issue. I mean, and if you're in a poor district, it is a very expensive venture to require every AP teacher to go through this training. But Mr. Bailey has really nailed it. Any superintendent or principal that's worth their salt is not going to put an ineffective teacher into a course that could possibly impact their accountability model, because all of the AP, those that get 3 or higher, factor into the acceleration component. So we're not asking you to make the final decision today. We're saying this is our recommendation. Let's put it out for APA and let's see what everybody else has to say about it. Does that help, Dr. Kelly?
Yes, it does.
Okay, any additional comments or questions? If not, I'll restate the motion. The motion would be to approve the beginning of the APA process to revise Mississippi Administrative Code Section 7 through 4 Part 4 licensure guidelines K through 12 to modify the licensure requirements for obtaining and maintaining an AP supplemental add-on endorsement that is added to a valid standard 5-year Mississippi teacher license to teach AP courses. So if there's a motion, we'll further discuss and take a vote.
Karen Elam, so moved.
John Kelly, our second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, I think the motion carries. That we'll move forward to APA, and we will look forward to getting the comments back, and we will read them very carefully. Okay, next is Dr. Gavin's portion, approval of MDE contracts. Dr. Gavin.
Good morning. We're bringing forth 4 contracts for renewal for the FY21 school year. The first contract is a contract renewal with Questar Assessment, and it is for our assessment MAP 8 contract. And this will be year 6 out of 10 on this particular contract. Action item B is a renewal of a contract with Data Recognition Corporation. This is for our 5th and 8th grade science assessment and end of year course assessments in biology and U.S. history. This is a renewal year 3 out of 5. Our third contract we're seeking approval on for renewal is our Questar contract to administer the English language arts and mathematics in grades 3 through 8 in, of course, in Algebra 1 English and other eligible courses. And this is year 6 of 10 of this Questar contract. And our last item that we're bringing forth for renewal for FY21 is a contract for our monitoring and compliance specialist. And this is our 2nd year out of this 2-year contract.
The one question that I want to talk a little bit more about is regarding 7C with Questar assessment. How are we doing on our, I know I've asked this question 3 times now, but I know it's one that's got a lot of folks' interest. So walk through, where we were pre-COVID and what, I know that there was work done, and then there was a stop work, and now we're getting prepared for the next school year. How are we, what assurances do we have that, God forbid, this is a, massive resurgence and we have to do, things similar. And there's, again, let's not go down this road. There's no testing again. What assurances do we have that, we can stop work again and not be on the hook for this contract amount?
We do have stop orders in place in the contract, but I will allow Dr. Vanderford to speak to the specifics.
So the contracts for the upcoming school year, as Dr. Gavin just mentioned, have the same standard clauses and language. That would allow us the same benefit that we had to negotiate the contracts downward this year.
And do we know, and I can just get this report sent to me later, but I think it is important to know what we're on the hook for pre-COVID and, what it looks like moving forward, just because, the question is that people ask is, do we pay for something we didn't get? And the answer is no. But what did we pay for and what did we save, as a result? And are we, moving ahead, 1 year, on the contract? That's a separate question, but I just think there's some interest around that.
So Paula, maybe you can so Dr. Dean, do you want her to get into the details now, or would you prefer just a report sent? Because we have captured some savings. There's no doubt about that. There had been work that had been performed up until the stop order. But for example, the entire assessment that was already developed for this year, we are now able to move into next year, which we would not have to be paying for. So there are items and the same thing with scoring, the same thing with reporting, all those kinds of things. So we can give you a breakdown of where we've moved from this current contract to the contract that we're asking you to approve. But yes, we've been working on that quite steadily.
So let's just make it maybe an item for the next board meeting or even in July. I just think it's good, due diligence, and people know, and they're looking. There's no sense of urgency really, and maybe we'll know more in a month or two. So that's the only question I have. Are there any other questions from board members on A, B, or C, or D? If not, under the Office of Chief Operations Officer, do I have a motion to approve items 7A, 7B, 7C, and 7D? Need a motion and a second.
Mr. Chairman, this is John Kelly. I'll make the motion.
Motion from Dr. Kelly in a second.
Second. Dr. Elam.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hear none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll move to action item 8, approval of MDE grant.
Dr. Dean?
Yes.
I've got to excuse myself. I just want to be marked as I've left the meeting.
Okay, and I think that, thank you for telling us, and Mr. Suggs also had to depart, so I'll ask if we still have quorum. I think we do. We do. Okay, thank you, Dr. Elam, for participating.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And then, as I was saying, we'll move on to approval of MDE grant awards. Dr. Gavin.
Before the board, 3 action items, 3 grants that we're seeking board approval on. Action item A is to grant the Mississippi School Board Association a $75,000 grant, and that is for them to conduct their training for the local boards and for school board members. Action item B is to award competitive grants for the Mississippi Community Oriented Policy Services, which is known as our MCOPS grants, and this is our second round on that particular grant. And action item C is a renewal of an existing grant. This is year 2 of a 3-year grant to approve education residence grants, and we are funding, I think, about 71 coaches through this particular grant.
All righty. Any comments or questions for Dr. Gavin or anyone else? Dr. Vanderford, Dr. Oakley, any questions? Okay, under the Chief Operations Officer, do I have a motion to approve items 8A, 8B, and 8C?
This is Rosemary. I so move.
All right, there's a motion and a second.
Mr. I second.
Okay, the motion with the second. Any additional discussion? Hear none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Now we are to the consent agenda. All consent items are action items which require a vote unless otherwise noted. Any comments or questions under the consent agenda? Do I have a motion to approve items A, B, C, D, E, and F?
Well, this is Rosemary. I move for approval.
All right, there's a motion to approve the consent agenda with no amendments. Is there a second?
John Kelly, our second.
All right, we've got a second. Is there any additional discussion? Hear none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. I am told that we do not have executive session. Let me get caught up here. No executive session, so no need to go through that. We'll go to number 11, State Board of Education, report on any meetings attended. I think we covered that in our comments. And I don't know that there's any approval of meetings to attend between now and June. So we'll move to number 12, other business. So this is the discussion of our next meeting dates. We reached out to board members, and I think it's pretty apparent that we would. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me finish my comment, then I'll go. Yeah, I'll go back. Well, let me just go back now. So we need approval of meeting dates for our fiscal year 2021. That you should have a copy of that in front of you. If anybody has any known conflicts. we can discuss that. If not, then I need a motion to approve the stated meeting dates for fiscal year 2021.
Chairman John Kelly, I move approval.
Okay, motion. Is there a second?
Brittany Rye, second.
All right. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion on the dates? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Sorry about that. So yeah, I'm jumping ahead to our June meeting. What I was saying is we reached out to as many board members as we could hear back from in the short amount of time that we had. And I think it's, while some are certainly happy and willing to come in, it's still out of an abundance of caution, probably good prudence to do our June meeting remotely one more time. And let's see where things are, and we'll handle July thereafter. So the first of all, the meeting will also be done remotely using our Zoom software. And also related is we had our budget meeting originally scheduled for the previous day. And now we need to move that to June 11th, which is the date of our scheduled board meeting, start time at 8:30 a.m. So at our June 11th board meeting, we'll do our budget meeting at 8:30 a.m. And we'll probably just roll right into our meeting thereafter, unless there's a whole bunch of time. So hopefully that makes sense. I think I need a motion to move our budget meeting from the 10th at 2 o'clock to 11 to the 11th at 8:30 a.m.
Brittany Rye, I so move.
Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Right.
Rosemary, second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. The board budget work session will be held on June 11th, 2020, starting at 8:30 a.m. And the June board meeting will follow starting at 10 a.m. All right. Any other thoughts, comments? Well, I would just say y'all be careful and safe out there, and we'll look forward to seeing you in June. There's a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Thanks, Colin.
There's a motion, and is there a second?
Second.
Rosemary with the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, we are adjourned. Thank y'all. Talk soon.
Thank you.
See ya.
Stay safe.
Thank you.